Hey, welcome to the Future of Dentistry event. Today, you are in for a treat because we are going to be looking at something that I believe really is the future of dentistry. I'm speaking today with Weston Lunsford. He's the CEO of Dental Intel, and I can just tell you that if you have not seen Dental Intel before, be prepared to be blown away. Weston, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Marilee. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, I'm happy to be seeing this. So I have a few clients that use Dental Intel. They have all raved about it. I've had a chance to kind of peek around on the dashboard, but I can't wait to see this in all of its glory.
Well, we're excited about the product. I actually I was feeling some of the pains that most of the offices were feeling over the last decade as we were working with dental offices, trying to get really easy to use numbers. And I feel like over the years of building this, Dental Intel has just really become the best at making numbers easy. And I feel very strongly and passionate about numbers. A lot of people call all of our team here number geeks, and we kind of are. But at the same time, there's such a power in business data as long as it's accurate and timely. And excited to show you what the power is. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Because you really are kind of a numbers geek. Do you mind kind of giving your history and how Dental Intel came about, how you started it?
Yeah, sure. Back in 2004, I started a CPA practice with a partner of mine, both me and my partner, Shaylin Peck, and Shaylin is a male. He's got a girl's name. Everyone asked my wife if she was comfortable with me starting a CPA practice with another female, but I did start it with a male. So Shaylin Peck and I started a CPA practice back in 2004, and he's got family in the dental industry. And when we started the CPA firm, we knew that we wanted a different type of model from most accounting practices. We didn't want to just simply do after-the-fact accounting and reporting and tax work, but to be more proactive with our customers. It first started out with being proactive on making sure that all of our clients, especially dentists, because they pay a lot of tax, but yet at the same time, they don't feel like they're sitting with a lot of cash. And so we wanted to be very proactive in helping them reduce and minimize their tax liability. And what I mean by proactive is focusing on just the strategy. We would be with them quarterly at least, conversing and discussing and strategizing around some different tax saving strategies. But in doing so, I would see several of my friends that were practicing in dentistry, and some of them were extremely profitable and some weren't. And I remember the first time it hit me towards the end of 2006. I had a really good friend, general practice, who had just over 1,200 active patients. He was fairly newer practice, but just over 1,200 active patients. And he was taking home around $300,000 a year. And I had another friend that had 2,000 active patients who was taking home less than $80,000 a year. And that's when Shaylin and I talked about this quite a bit, and we said, you know, we really need to focus on what's causing the difference on generating the production or the revenue in a dental practice, and start focusing on that. So we started doing that. We started doing more CFO type consulting, evaluating the numbers in dental practices, really trying to figure out numerically what a healthy practice looks like and what a healthy practice doesn't look like. I think it was 2009 I got invited to speak at a dental school here with Shine, participating with them in a conference on a panel of experts. And I remember a dental student asked, if there's one tip of advice that you can give graduating students, what would it be? We went through, and I was sitting there on the panel with just a bunch of dentists, so I kind of felt out of place to begin with. The first dentist shared some clinical insight, and then it came to me, and I said, the best tip of advice I can give you is to numerically, through the numbers, know before you get into a dental practice, what does a healthy practice look like? Financially speaking, on all budget items, and then also performance speaking, such as percentage of hygiene production or percentage of diagnosing patients with perio. What does all the performance metrics look like if they're healthy? And then look at your practice that you're buying or you're starting and shoot to reach for those healthy numbers. And it really resonated with most of the dentists in that panel. In fact, the doctor next, when he stood up, his next comment was, well, my one tip of advice would be to find someone that knows the dental numbers and to make sure you get those written down and set those goals and work towards that. Because if I knew that, I would have been retired 15 years earlier. And I really feel that that's the most powerful thing that dentists today can do, especially those that are competing against the corporate dentistry, to really focus on where they really want to be, what is healthy and where are they at, and then shoot to get there. Most dentists just don't know. So we saw that need, and over the course of the 10 years in doing this type of consulting, numbers consulting with dentists, we needed a product. And we tried using so many products out there, and nothing was timely enough or accurate enough. And so over the years, we had built Dental Intel. And this year of 2015, the first part of it in April was when we launched this full automated version, which has just been a lot of fun.
It is impressive. Can I just tell you, it is just so impressive. What you did is you really saw a gaping hole within dentistry, and you guys have just like zoomed right in to fill it. It's amazing to me that you really have not been around that long, and it's definitely with the automated software, just about a year, you said?
Yeah, we're coming on our year April 1st of the launch of the automated software, yeah.
Yeah, it is incredible. Well, you know, you were talking about looking at those numbers. I'm curious, is there one that tends to be like a runaway culprit when it comes to an unhealthy number, one that you're like, we always see this number is always unhealthy within dental offices, or very often unhealthy in dental offices?
Yes, there are so many of those, but let me simplify it. Can I give you a simple formula? In fact, can listeners see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to open up a Word document because I want to actually type this formula up. So can you see my Word document? I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
I'm going to really simplify dentistry. And some people will think this is oversimplified, but it's visits times, so that little X is times our production per visit, equals production. Okay? So I spelled visit wrong. Our visits times production per visit, let me just fix this, equals our production. And when I look at this formula, that means that there's two ways to increase production. It's either by having more visits, or it's by improving the production on the visits that are coming into the practice. There's only those two ways, Marilee. So if we really think at dentistry in increasing the top line revenue in that manner, that every single metric revolving around production will fall under the category of how we get people in a chair, and then once we get people in the chair, how are we doing on those patients once they're in our chair? There's only those two ways of increasing. So when I help dental offices really start seeing this formula, then they can start looking at responsibilities. Well, who's ultimately responsible for getting patients in the chair? And then who's responsible for getting the best dentistry performed on those patients once they're in the chair? It really starts dividing out the responsibilities. And when I start thinking about those numbers, the one that's most volatile, the most volatile or difficult thing to manage is visits. And I know that may seem crazy, but it's the hardest one to manage. What type of patient do we have come in? Are they new patients? Are they existing patients? Are they unscheduled treatment plan patients? There's cancellations and no-shows. There's reactivating old patients. And so the visit metric itself, and just managing the provider's chair time and their blocks of units, it's probably the most volatile and difficult thing to manage. And so a lot of the performance metrics that we have in our dashboard are geared around those visits and making sure that we're most effective there first. Once we're at capacity or over capacity, now we're starting to focus on this second metric, which is our production per visit. Yeah, you know as well as I do, we don't want to just get busy and not be producing well on the patients that are coming in. So now to answer your question with that formula, actually I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna add to it real quick. Visits times production per visit, and then if you times that by your collection percentage, that equals the revenue that you're bringing into the practice. I'm just going to put an Excel formula. Now I'm going to minus overhead. So just take off overhead here. That equals profits. So there are 4 categories of metrics. There's our visit metrics, how patients are getting into our practice or failing those appointments. Our production per visit metrics, which we call those case planning or treatment planning. Our collections, how are we doing once the money comes in? and then our overhead, how are we spending money. So Dental Intel has taken these 4 major categories and built performance metrics specifically around those categories, and that's what our dashboard is made up of. But here's the common trend that we see, Marilee, and this is really interesting. And if you go look at this on any of your practices you work with, I'm almost confident you're going to see this trend. But for example, we'll see our visits trending up. We'll see our future. I'm just going to show you on the dashboard right now. This is a practice. This is live data, but I changed the name so you can't see who it is. But we'll see, I'm just going to drill down into this. We'll see visits are growing. In fact, if you look at let me take off 14. Look at 2015 and 2016, just in January and February compared. They have a lot more patients that they're seeing.
Yeah.
In January of 14, they saw 1,300 patients, 1,299. In January of 2016, they've seen 1,413. Pretty significant increase month over month there. Now,
definitely.
A common trend that we'll see, and I'll see if this one is following that trend, they are. So that's our visits. Now we have our average production per visit. So let's just click on this. Now look at this. 2015. Do you see how they were so much higher than they were in 2016 on average production per visit? So this practice got busier with patient visits. They're seeing more patients, but they're less effective on those patient visits. And if I look at this practice, for example, I've just got January showing there right now. They were sitting at $412 a year ago in January, and now they're sitting at, just to do quick math, they're sitting at $366. That's a difference of $46 on average per visit. So someone might say, well, that's not that big of a deal. Well, look at March's completed visits. Actually, let's just go back and look at January's completed visits really quickly. This practice completed, you see where I'm circling here on the dashboard? On the visit metric, they completed 419 visits. If you times that by that average of $46 per visit, that's an additional $20,000 of production, Marilee.
Wow.
So we commonly see when dentist or hygienist or any provider for that matter gets busier with more people in their chair, they're less efficient on the production that they're offering or recommending or treatment planning and getting accepted with the patients coming in the chair. So they feel like they're getting busier, but the money doesn't follow it. And that's probably the most common thing that we see. And so our dashboard's designed to make sure that we cover all 4 of those major categories: our visits, our production on the visits that are coming in, and then how are we collecting the money. And then once we figure out how we're collecting the money, we can also integrate with financial software. And so you can actually see the financial dashboard on how you're spending your money and if you're within budgets that you typically would see benchmarking across the nation with general practices across the country.
Oh my goodness, Weston, this is so awesome. And you're absolutely, I mean, I've heard of this trend before, but like you said, it is so different when you can actually show the statistics to go along with it, when you can show the numbers and show the true impact. It has a completely different feel than just saying, okay, you know, be aware of the fact that you might start to, as you increase efficiency and as you increase volume, that you may start to see a lower trend or less treatment being accepted, or you may see that your production per visit falls down. But to see these metrics, to see it actually is happening, is very, very, very powerful.
Well, it's very eye-opening to most doctors that own their practices, and even to their team, to hygienists, where we'll see the very similar things, because we can break this down by provider. In fact, we have what's called the provider pulse. I think I'm showing that on my screen right now, where we literally can look at the providers, and there's various metrics that you can go through and look at. For example, it's on production per visit right now, and so we can see that Felicity Lee right here is ranked #1 in her practice. But we also tell them and show them where they're ranked amongst their peers. And right now we have just north of 2,000 dentists utilizing Dental Intel and just over 4,000 hygienists utilizing Dental Intel. So there's a lot of good statistical information in here where they can see that, like right now, Felicity Lee ranks amongst the top 25% of general practitioners. Now, if they're a practice with pediatric dentists, then we'll click on pediatric dentists and it'll rank them amongst the pediatric dentists or whatever they have within their practice.
Wow.
So it'll really give people good insight on how they're performing individually. But again, the goal is overall improve the practice. And if we can improve the practice, and like you said, when you know where you're at and you see it, the numbers don't lie. So there's no emotion attached to a number. It is what it is. The question behind what you see is why. And if doctors can collaborate around with their team in the dental office around the dashboard and say, guys, we're sitting at $127 per visit right now on our hygiene visits. I'm looking at this hygiene case visit. We have a goal of 171. What's preventing us from getting there? And then they can go down into the metric and look at diagnostic percentage on how many patients they're diagnosing with any perio or silence. They can look at out of the patients that they're diagnosing, what percent is accepting. If you look at this one practice right here on this hygiene case, they're at 127. They want to hit up into the 70 percentile, which is $171. So any listeners right now, go and look and measure the average production per hygiene visit. So if a person is coming in for a hygiene visit, just take the total hygiene dollars that were produced, divide it by the number of hygiene visits, that's going to give you your average dollar. If it's below 171, there's good chances that there's no SRPs being diagnosed, or there's no silence being diagnosed, or they are being diagnosed and just not accepted. If you look at this practice, for example, they are at 127, so we go down the story to try to figure out what's going on. We can see that they're only diagnosing 5% of their patients with any hygiene treatment. And what I mean by that is perio, needs for perio, so SRPs or perio maintenance or silence, where they saw 209 Marilee patients. You see that? They only diagnosed 10 of those patients with any type of hygiene case that's needed for those patients. Super low.
Wow.
But when they diagnose, look at the next section. 14 total were presented with cases. Out of those 14, 13 patients accepted. So it's really easy now to say, okay, this hygiene team needs to diagnose more. When they do diagnose, everyone's accepting. 93%, that's phenomenal. But they're only diagnosing 5%. But that's the goal of a performance dashboard, to create a visual representation that takes away the emotion of, I feel we're doing this, or I feel we're not doing this. Now you can immediately see what you are or are not doing well in, celebrate the successes, and discuss the opportunities as a team, and make a plan to change. And it really is that simple.
That is so awesome. Seriously, so awesome, Weston. So I'm curious, do you have any success stories or any case studies from clients that came on, and just how quickly seeing this information, seeing these numbers has impacted their practice?
Oh yeah. Well, I do have, as a guarantee here, we don't guarantee to our clients or to our customers because they have to act. It's like buying, you know, I was actually good friends with the founders of now their company name is slipping me. It's the Icon Fitness, because they're up in Logan. The company was founded up in Logan, Utah. But there's research on treadmills. This is kind of off topic, Marilee, but there's research on treadmills. Do you know they only have to build a treadmill to last on average 6 months?
Wow.
Why do you think that is?
Because people only use them for a very short period of time. They probably use them for like a month or two. 6 months is probably being generous.
It's no different than anything. So I do have a guarantee, but part of the guarantee is you have to get on the treadmill and run. You have to run. You're not going to lose weight if you don't use the treadmill. And it's the same thing with our dashboard. If there are individuals out there that want to have a successful practice, and Marilee, some will have it, but it could be luck. Those who know where they are at in relationship to where they want to be, and then they have a visual representation of that process from where they're at to the journey of where they want to be, have a much better chance in reaching that desired goal than those that are just kind of shooting from the hip hoping they reach it. So yes, we have countless success stories. One of my favorite is a practice owner that was mid-2014. He called us up. He practiced in Park City, Utah. And during his practicing time, he actually called Rob Bay, one of my co-founders here, took the phone call, and he said, I need some help figuring out the valuation of my company because I need to sell. Well, we didn't deal with valuations or acquisitions and selling of practices. So Rob simply said, well, that's not really us, but why are you wanting to sell? And started talking to him because obviously Rob wanted a customer. So Rob helped this customer understand the benefit of, before even selling, let's at least light you up. And that's what we call, when we sync someone's practice management software and provide them with a dashboard, we say light you up, because it's literally like turning on a light in a dark room. That we see things that they otherwise couldn't have seen. So we said, let's light you up. Let's see what's going on in your practice. This doctor, complete different person now, but at that time, he was depressed. He was anxious, not knowing what was going on. Rob, he was younger. I think he was 36 years old at that time, about a year and a half ago. And Rob asked him why he wanted to sell, and he literally said, people here don't think I'm a good dentist. He practiced in Park City, Utah, kind of a touristy area. And he said, I just can't keep busy enough, and I don't know what's going on. I feel like I need to. He was going to follow the corporate mentality. He wanted to sell and just go work as an associate at a corporate practice. So Rob said, let's see. The doctor agreed. We integrated the software. We had a dashboard up the very next day. We looked at it, and I'm not kidding. We were kind of laughing, not at the doctor, but laughing at all the gold that we saw sitting on the wall that was already mined out. We just needed to show him a couple things. Rob got on the phone with him, showed him a few things to focus on, and there were literally 2 things that he needed to tweak, just 2 little things. And he saw that instantly. The doctor did it. For the past 8 years, this doctor had not taken home more than $80,000 take-home pay for the past 8 years in a row. Last year, he took home $413,000. I mean, it's an extreme case, and it seems kind of unbelievable, but at the same time, he had to tweak a couple things, and it wasn't just tweaking some of the things we found. Once he started fixing some areas in his practice, his confidence started becoming better. Rob actually ran into him at a restaurant up in Park City, and Rob didn't even recognize him. He did, but he didn't. His whole countenance was different. And so Rob approached him, and he just had a whole different feel. One of my favorite stories is this doctor, just because it not only did his practice improve, but just his overall quality of life. We've had, just recently, we integrated another practice that had 5 locations. He's down in Texas, and super busy, successful doctor. He has several associates working for him, but he was having a hard time really keeping up on just the performance in all the practices. And so we integrated with him. He loved it right off the bat and just said, this is going to save me so much time, because now he can just switch back and forth between the multiple locations. But one of the things that he started focusing on is immediately just making sure that he wasn't letting patients fall through the cracks, because his dashboard showed him that was the #1 issue that he had. He was losing so many patients. And you know how hard it is to get new patients for a dental practice.
Definitely. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of practices, very common thing. Patients just fall through the cracks. And so he saw that, and immediately the very next week, and this was just, he's only been on with us for about 5 weeks now, but he's gone from an average reschedule rate of his patients down into the mid-60s to the mid-90s now, and holding that consistently. And it was just showing his team, showing them the number where they're at, talking about it, and now immediately his percentage of increase of rescheduling his patients has increased by 30%. So
wow.
That's what we love most. We love changing lives, and numbers can change people's lives.
Oh, definitely. These numbers can definitely change people's lives. To go from taking home 80 to taking home over 400,000 definitely changes somebody's life. Weston, I was just curious, how long does it take to integrate? Because you're talking about, you went ahead and you integrated, you lit them up. How long does that take?
So we've gotten a lot better. We've had some practices where sometimes the integration has taken us a few hours to get it done, but now literally 10-minute phone call with the practice, I can have their dashboard up and running.
Wow.
So generally what happens with us and any customers that are, or any dentists out there or consultants or anyone working in the industry that's wanting to see their data first, now that we've gotten so good at doing an integration and fast at this, we'll let them, before even making a decision about wanting to purchase the product, the dashboard for their office, we'll show them their own office. So even if they decide not to move forward with getting dental intel, they'll still gain some really valuable insight as to what's going on with their practice, just with a 10-minute phone call, because we'll do the integration, we'll show them what's happening, we'll show them opportunities, we'll show them places to succeed, and almost probably 8 out of 10 calls that we take like this, the doctors are saying, I've learned more about my practice in this 30-minute call with you than I've known in the last 5 years of practicing dentistry. Simply because we show things, well, like these case metrics, or even what's happening with our new patients at a glance, on how many of those are accepting treatment when presented, or how many of those are rescheduling for our hygiene care, or even our hygiene reappointment. You can see this practice right now is at 90% reappointing, meaning that they have 211 patients that came in this month, and 190 of those rescheduled for their next prophy cleaning or SRP. And you can't get that data out of your practice management software. You have to calculate these things manually. There's nothing that we're really showing that you can go grab. For example, right now I can quickly see this practice has 385 active patients that are currently unscheduled. Not only do I know that they're unscheduled, but I can see what they're worth if I schedule them for their next hygiene appointment. And $46,000 for the next appointment. And these patients right now, if I look at these 385 patients, they annually, over the last 12 months, were worth $496,000 to this practice. So we don't want to lose them. The nice thing is I can add a click. I can see who these patients are and by category. And so I just click on it, and immediately they pop up. If they're red, they're past due. That means they should have been in already. If they're black, then they're not past due, but they're still unscheduled, so we're not confident they're going to be coming back in. And that's kind of the goal, just providing quick, easy, actionable data. So there's stuff in here that they just cannot get out of their practice management software unless they do a lot of manual calculating, and that's so time consuming that by the time we get that done, it's difficult to go implement any changes because you spend all your time aggregating data.
Right. And well, the other thing that I love about this lesson is that you've talked about, at the very beginning when you were saying, as the schedule gets more full, as you get more patients coming in, you tend to see less production per visit, less production per patient visit. And what I love about this is that it shows everything. Because otherwise, this is what tends to happen, is that you set one goal and you focus on that for a while, and hopefully you hit it, and then you set the next goal and you go after it, and then the first goal, like, it kind of goes by the wayside. Does that make sense?
Right.
And so it's like, okay, our schedule's super full, and so I see this all the time where dentists feel like they're just like on an endless hamster wheel, because they're like, I'm hitting my goal, I'm producing more, I'm getting more new patients, but at the end of the day, I'm not making any more money.
Or I'm working more to do it.
Yeah.
And their quality of life has just gone out the door because they're just working a lot more hours to hit those results. And you're right. So we've organized our dashboard, Marlee, in a manner where this top scrolling bar where it scrolls, these are what we would call lagging indicators. So for example, this first one, I'm just going to stop it where it says average production per visit. It's a lagging indicator. This is not the cause of so production per visit is a direct cause of me diagnosing and getting treatment accepted out of the patients that are coming in. The diagnosing and getting patients to accept treatment are the leading indicators. This is a lagging indicator. So all of our metrics on the very top ticker board, we call it a ticker board, it just ticks there as we let it scroll, they're lagging indicators. If any of those are red, that means something's going down on our leading indicators, which is our performance metrics down here. So it's our performance metrics. There's 9 on the performance board. There's on the collection board. I think there's 6 on the collection board. On the financial board, there is 6 major category metrics on the financial board. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 6 on the collection board. Even for someone to calculate their average AR days, just look at this practice here on this collection board. Just to calculate, this practice is phenomenal. By the way, their collection goal is to collect 90+% of the revenue before the treatment's even scheduled. So as people are walking out, they're collecting. Now, not all practices can do that. I get it. But if you look at this, their AR days on collections is averaging 8. So by the time they produce the revenue, within 8 days, they have all the money. That's phenomenal.
Wow. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. You are not kidding. That is phenomenal.
But you look at most practices and ask them where they're at, they have no clue. They have no idea where they're at. They could be averaging 60 days of average AR. And that really hurts the cash flow. And so the dashboard is set up to make people's lives easier and seeing what's going on. But they have to act. They can't just look at it and say, that's nice to know. They've got to make some decisions. So we have a philosophy in Dental Intel where we teach people, you've got to look with your team, discover things, discuss it, and the discussing is what's identifying the reason behind the number. And once they get that, then it's really easy to make a plan. And it can actually be a really winning culture experience if they do this with their entire team in a 5 to 10 minute morning huddle. We have what's called a daily review that gets emailed out to teams. It can go out to the doctor, or it can go out to the owner, or it can go out to the hygienist. I mean, whoever they want to take responsibility for it. But it's basically just a daily review that gets emailed out, and within 5 minutes they can look at these numbers and celebrate things and talk about things that need to be focused on, and you'll start seeing the practice transform based on data versus based on the feelings of what's going on in a practice.
Wow. Yes, that is just incredible. Okay, so Weston, getting into it, where does this information come from? Do you guys integrate with practice management systems? Is it a separate dashboard where people put in?
We currently have practice management software integrations with Dentrix, so G5 and higher. We do not integrate with G4 or less. We integrate with EagleSoft and EagleSoft 15 or higher, versions 15 or higher, and they're all the way out to version 17 now, so hopefully there's no one less than 15 right now. And then we integrate with Open Dental, which we love Open Dental. They are phenomenal practice management software. We're just finishing our integration with SoftDent, so it will be here shortly and available. But with those 3 and soon 4 SoftDent practice management softwares, with the 3 we're covering 82% of the general practice dentists out there. With SoftDent coming in, we'll be up to 94% of all dentists out there covered under those 4 integrations. And then as far as practice management software, financial software integrations, we integrate with QuickBooks desktop version, QuickBooks online version, and then also Great Plains, which is a Microsoft product. Great Plains we'll find in more of the corporate type dental offices. QuickBooks we see most commonly amongst the single location to 1 to 5 location offices.
Goodness. Well, seriously, Weston, I am so darn impressed. Would you say that most of your clients do look at this daily or at least weekly? Like, how often do you think is the minimum that people have to look at it in order to really
good question. Awesome question. So here's the deal. It's not just the doctor that should be looking at the practice management or the dashboard. In fact, there are metrics that should be owned by individuals in the practice. For example, those who are responsible for scheduling, they own this visit metric, and one of the things that they do on a daily basis is come in here and look at next week's scheduled visits. I'm the standard front desk individual that's focusing on scheduling visits would do on a daily basis, because we show the future. So you can see in here, I'm going to click on hygiene visits. We have a goal to have 50 hygiene visits scheduled. Do you see this goal right here?
Yep.
And they have scheduled how many?
50.
50. Awesome.
50.
Well, we know they're going to have some broken appointments. So they've reached their goal already, and that's the objective. I want everyone scheduling to their production goal before the week even starts. So before Monday of next week, they have scheduled their production goal. So they know they're going to have success. And if the front desk takes that type of ownership on a daily basis to look at this to make sure she's scheduling next week production goal to success, it's really hard, Marilee, for that practice to fail. But there's a couple other metrics, and let me show you these. I'm just going to back up all the way to I'll go to February. It's a month old. Down here on a daily basis, I'm going to come down here. We have these no-show and cancellation metrics. So you can see no-show and cancellations. We had 455 patients scheduled to come in the month of February. 10 of them canceled. Not bad at all. There's still 8 of those 10. No, it's really good. But Marilee, look at this. There's still 8 that have still not been added back to the schedule. So out of the 10 that canceled, 8 of them are still unscheduled, and these were cancellations in the month of February. We're halfway through March, and they're still not recaptured. You look at their no-shows, same thing. We had 18 cancellation Out of those, only 8 of those are still remaining unscheduled. So on a daily basis, who owns these metrics? The team member that's responsible for this would come in here, they click on the source data so they can see the patients, who would make sure patients aren't falling through the cracks. Now, every team member has a role in the practice, and there is data behind that role. So Dental Intel software trainers will train the team members on the metrics they own, and then in the daily review in the morning for 5 to 10 minutes, it's that individual that owns that metric that will talk about that metric for a brief 30 seconds, what's going well and what they're struggling with, and that's what really creates this winning environment. So it's a daily basis.
Awesome. And Weston, what you just said, I couldn't agree with more. This has been like my motto for years, that every team member within a practice needs to have a specific responsibility and a specific goal. And what you have done here with Dental Intel is that you've made that totally clear. There's no longer, I think they're doing their job well, or I think she's following up with patients, or, you know, I think that I'm producing well. It is here in black and white and blue and a few other colors.
Yeah, and we manage these goals. I just went to the portal users, and so I'm going to come here to look at Addison Brimhall. We can come in here and click on this little trophy, and then we can start typing in specific goals for the provider themselves. So every provider that's producing in the practice can have specific goals, and then the overall goals for the practice in regards to front desk and office manager, those are more practice-oriented goals that we can quickly change on the dashboard itself. So if I'm looking, for example, at my overall reappointment, which is a hygiene goal, I can click on here and say that I want my office to be at 95% reappointment percentage and save that. And now the whole team can kind of see where they're at in relation to that goal. And now if they're not there, dive down into the individual providers to see which ones might need a little bit of extra help. So yeah, it's individualized by provider and by team member, and then also global as an entire team of what the practice is looking like.
So I have 2 very quick questions because I know we're running out of time. But first, is there a limit to how many team members people can track and follow with the software?
No, not at all. So we want every single team member to get in there, and so we keep the cost super low. It's not a per license, it's just per location.
So that is amazing. Okay, well, and then the most important question is really, what is the best way for listeners to get in contact with you? You said that you can light them up in 10 minutes, give them this information, let them see for themselves where they're at and then where they should be. What's the best way for them to get in contact with Dental Intel?
If any dentists out there, providers or industry experts want to see a free snapshot of a practice, they literally, if they just go to our website, www.dentalintel.com, they can fill out the web form there. One of our account executives will contact them, and it's just standard protocol right now that we'll just do these snapshots of a practice. And so they can put the time that they want us to schedule to call the office if they know the time, or just a general time, any time to call, and we'll call them up, we'll do the integration, and then they can have a look at their practice. So our website.
Just to reiterate one more time, Weston, you said you work with Dentrix G5 and higher.
Yep, EagleSoft version 15 or higher.
Yep, Open Dental.
And Open Dental, and then we are just wrapping up the SoftDent integration, so that will be available by the end of April.
Awesome. Oh, that is so cool. Weston, thank you for taking the time. I am so impressed with it. Thank you for what you've created here. It's awesome.
Hey, it's fun, and it's a big collaboration amongst dentists out there. So I just want to say thanks to all of our customers that are listening to this right now too, because they've really helped out. We get so much feedback every day, and we're super responsive with that and get those things in there. And so a lot of this is built based off of the doctors in the field, the hygienists in the field that are working day in and day out trying to figure out the best way to practice dentistry. And so we appreciate their support and contribution to this great product too. So thanks, Marilee.